My name is Frances Cath-Metadice, and I am president of the Houston Easton Chamber of Commerce. And it's an honor to welcome you to our Feel Good Friday. Today, we have two special guests with us, and I know that you're going to leave inspired and you're going to leave with inspiration. Today, we have Todd Stewart, who is president of Gulf Winds International. And we also have Jamie Hampton, who is the executive director for More Than the Move. And this is an organization, a nonprofit that was started by Gulf Winds International. And you're going to hear from Todd of how the company got started, how they started this nonprofit organization, and how Jamie is taking it to the next level. So without further ado, I wanted to welcome you, Todd, and Jamie, to our program today.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Good.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome. So Todd, we'll go ahead and start with you. And would you mind telling us a little bit about Gulf Winds International and how it was started?
Sure. I think the timing is really fitting as I think about all the challenges that everyone's facing, obviously, in today's world with COVID and uncertainty, volatility in all markets. My dad actually experienced that at the age of about 50. He was laid off while he was working for a big corporation. There was a big merger that took place. So during that time, he was in Atlanta. He moved back to Houston, wound up birthing Gulf Winds International with his 401k savings. And so he did what everyone tells you not to do, which is cash in your 401k and start a company in the middle of your life. And so we're all beneficiaries of that. Praise God. We made it through that first year. Just like they tell you in business school, everyone goes broke because of lack of initial capital. Nobody wants to give you money. And we made it. And we started with really one customer, one location. And today we have terminal operations on the trucking side where we move containers, ocean containers that come in primarily through the Port of Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, also Mobile, as well as Memphis. And so that's our first warehouse that you see right there in the middle of the screen. Obviously, there's a shot of the Port of Houston. That's our early crew down there on the bottom left, which looks like we had maybe 10 or 12 people at the company at that time. But that was our first location right off of 610 and 288. And we handled green coffee. Basically 150-pound sacks of green coffee came in. I was cheap labor right out of college. So basically went to work in the warehouse, driving a forklift, unloading containers. And slowly but surely, we built that business, started our own trucking operation. And today, we're the largest container hauler by volume out of the Port of Houston. And so we've been very blessed. It's not been without great struggle. Obviously, my dad passed away about 3.5 years ago, which also led to us birthing the foundation. But we feel very grateful, very blessed to be where we are. Nobody does this on their own. I always tell people it takes lots of different gifts and talents, and God's been faithful to bring many different people to our company at the right time. And so, again, we understand a little bit about sort of challenging circumstances. We've faced those in the past, and we've, of course, been through many storms and floods and West Coast labor strikes that have impacted our business. Lots of different things over the years where we've seen ups and downs. But throughout that, I just tried to remain steady and faithful to our mission. And our mission is to glorify God by providing world-class logistics services through continual investment in our people, our clients, our community, and the world we live in. And so that's really where More Than the Move, the foundation, comes in, is we love to invest back in the community as we're able. And of course, that's a joy for us to have that opportunity. We never dreamed that we would have that opportunity. But again, business is hard. I know it's difficult these days with all that's going on. So I want to be real with that too. I have this incredible joy about just serving others and being able to do what we do in business and also in the community. At the same times, we face the same challenges that other people face, which is, lower volumes through the Port of Houston, although the Port of Houston is doing actually better than most of the other ports around the country. But there's still a very real business pressure right now. And so I always tell people there's a crazy dynamic going on right now, because I feel like there's so many opportunities to serve others in ministry right now because the need is so great. Anytime you have catastrophes and things that are hard, that opens up doors for service and obviously for giving opportunities as well. But on the other side, you also have the real struggles of businesses, which obviously impact so many people in a challenging way. So our hearts go out to those people today who are facing difficulties and challenges in this community and in our society as a whole.
Well, and Todd, you have a beautiful way of lifting people up, and so I so much appreciate that. And then I'm super honored because I was looking at your dad behind his desk and that furniture, and I actually have that furniture in my office now. So I love that hand-me-down furniture, and it inspires me to do as good as he did and as good as you're doing. So thank you both for that.
Oh, absolutely. I know he would be excited for you to have it as well. So I think we're the first father-son duo that's ever been with the chamber.
I know, it's an honor. And when did you start More Than the Move? What year?
We started in 2017, which was January of 2017. Something that it's important to understand is we had long been doing a lot of the things that we basically just put a context and a structure around with the foundation. And so that's where I think it's really helped us get better at what we were doing.
Mm-hmm. And then Jamie, you are the executive director of More Than the Move, and I know we have some photos that we're going to share. I'm sure you started as soon as it was launched. So how long have you been with the organization? And first of all, Todd, how old are you in that photo?
Oh my goodness. I would guess that's around 2012.
Wow.
So I'm 46 now, so I have to do the math on that. But clearly I've experienced some stress in between then and now.
Well, it's
that was a beautiful picture. I think we were in Colombia at that time. We've been on some vision trips over the years with one of our partners overseas. And that's one of the joys, is to be able to, at times, be able to take some people with us to see really what true struggle and true poverty looks like in the third world. But we have a great opportunity to impact people, not only over there, but obviously also directly in our own community as well. So it's a joy. And every time I see that picture, I smile. My dad actually was on that trip. He came later, and it's one of my great memories for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. And so, Jamie, can you tell us about what you do at More Than the Move and how it has changed your life personally?
Yeah. So originally my background as I came into the business world was actually working for Gulf Winds. And so like Todd mentioned, it was a joy to be in that culture, to already be a part of this giving culture that really invests back into the community, that invests back into the world, that invests back into employees. And so I was really, excited to be on the for-profit side. And then this opportunity came up to where, they were looking for someone to maybe steward and manage the foundation going forward. And I was thrilled to even be considered. And so that's where I stepped in around August, or actually it was more around October of 2017. So it was about 6 or 7, 8 months after the original founding of the foundation. And so that's where I've kind of stepped in the last 2.5 years. We've really tried, as Todd mentioned, bring more form. It's stuff we were already doing. But as with anything, when you have someone that does it, and then you need someone to kind of come in and bring form to what's happening. And so that's really my role is, how do we get people engaged in volunteerism in the community and the world? And how do we bring structure to our giving to Houston and the world? And then how do we continue to just be an advocate in our community for restoring hope? And that's really why we exist. It's really fairly simple, is we just want to see hope restored in the lives of people. And we want to impact lives, through the business world. And so that's really, what we're out to do at the foundation, and how I come in as the director and try to give leadership to that and steward that alongside Todd and our board, and just try to see lives impacted.
Well, I'm wearing this T-shirt, and I don't know if you can see it. It's Houston versus Hunger, and it was one of the first programs that More Than the Move put together, a volunteer program that all of these businesses, and you're right, the chamber, we have a small staff and we want to do give back opportunities, and sometimes it's hard because you need a big group, but you put a big group together with multiple organizations, and then we put together packages. Can you just tell us a little bit about that day and other things that you've done?
Yeah. And you hit on a great point to where, there's a lot of organizations, businesses that really have a heart to give back, right? Most of us really desire to give back to our community, but it kind of comes down to, well, but do I have time to plan something, for my whole group? And so that's really the need that we're trying to meet as a foundation, is really trying to make volunteerism accessible to the masses of small to medium-sized businesses that might not have someone dedicated to do that. And so we, like you mentioned, we just try to organize events, much like Houston versus Hunger, to where that day we packaged 100,000 meals that went back to the Houston Food Bank to help with food scarcity here in Houston. But it's a small way to engage. I think we had probably 30-something companies that joined in on that day. So you just have this amazing community event where we all, we want to help successful businesses, make that transition into the community to be significant, right? To give that a contribution back to our communities and to our world. And so that's really what that day was about. And it was a great day. And
it really was.
Try to do that with other events till today. So.
Francis, one of our dreams is, we realized that being a small to mid-sized business, especially in the service industry, is really hard. It's difficult because you have a lot of call volume. You've got a lot of challenges with many different customers. And so figuring out how to put together a volunteer giving platform where you engage people, it sounds like it would be easy to do, but the reality is most of the business owners that I know, and I'm involved in a Christian business owner CEO group, and I realized very quickly that these are people that have a heart to do things, but the reality is they are stressed for time. And so one of our dreams is to be able to help empower and enable others to do sort of what we have been able to do internally. And we really want to try and give this thing away, so to speak, because we believe that obviously the more people that we can engage in that capacity, that there's benefits internally to their organization, but obviously to the community and to the world as well. And so it's been really neat to watch kind of how Jamie's had opportunities to actually go into other organizations and to help them with what we call CARES programs.
That's wonderful. And on the screen right now, we've got a visual of the Steve Stewart Classic. When did this start? Can you tell us about that, either of you?
Yeah. So I guess I'll take this. My dream was, alongside with Todd, of just how do we really honor Steve, the founder of Gulf Winds, and thus, in essence, the legacy of More Than the Move Foundation. And so in partnership really with Gulf Winds International, we launched the Steve Stewart Classic, which is just a golf fundraiser that we host up in the Humble area. And this was our second year, was going to be this year, but it didn't happen. But at the same time, we have so many great companies that partnered with us that this year was just as good for us to be able to give to other nonprofits in the community as last year. So just think about how generous a lot of these companies really have been during this time. And, even on this video, I just want to say thank you to many of, the main sponsors, like a Series Golf here in our area, or the ILA, huge sponsors that have helped us to continue to be able to give through this outlet. But it's a great way for us to really, radiate kindness and generosity, even amongst, potential vendors of Gulf Winds, other business relationships, to where we can join together and do something purposeful.
What's been amazing to watch, Francis, is, this year, everybody probably in different companies, we thought this would be our biggest year yet in 2020. I mean, we had huge plans for 2020. Everything was on track. obviously just the economy was humming. Everything was going really well. Port volumes were rising. And then, of course, we all run into this buzzsaw that we're dealing with. And so it's a difficult time because we were like, man, I have all these huge things that we really set out to want to do. And I know even personally, like make commitments ahead of time. And then you wake up and go, uh-oh, the business isn't where it needs to be. And it's out of our control. These are things that we can't control. And so to see our partners in the Steve Stewart Classic step up, and most of them said, keep the money and give it to local nonprofits. And so that's exactly what we did, which is what enabled us even to help with Generation One. They're in the third ward. And so just some great opportunities, right, to give back because we had some partners with the Steve Stewart Classic that are companies that we've done business with for years in different means, as Jamie mentioned. And so just really grateful for those organizations who said, you know, we offered, you can take the money back. We're glad to write you a check because 100% of the money comes through. We're just kind of a throughput. We just want to be a throughput. We just want to distribute that to people who have needs in the area. And so we partner with solid nonprofits that are already making a great difference in the community and doing great work. But part of our ability to give this year has been based on the generosity of some of those partners. So we didn't have to pay for the tournament. So God worked it out where we actually reduced our expenses, but we were able to keep the money, which allowed us to give in a season where we didn't anticipate we would have an opportunity to do an awful lot this year. So you just see how God provides when you set out to do things according to his will and his way.
I love that. And what are some of the other nonprofit organizations that have benefited from the Steve Stewart Classic and other funds that you do?
Yeah, I mean, as Todd mentioned, we had a great standing together campaign just with a lot that's going on in culture. We wanted to be an organization that, you know, really tried to help with some solutions. And so we partnered with Generation One in the third ward that really educates the next generation. And so we made a huge investment there, dollar for dollar matching that a lot of people matched for $25,000, which was a huge need during this time. So that was wonderful to do. The other places would be community family centers here in the East End that does great work in our communities. We love what Maritza's doing there and support them. Today's Harbor for children in the LaPorte area is doing amazing work. Taking in children and giving them hope for a future. So we love what they're doing. Those are a few local ones that kind of come to mind. That maybe the last one, well, two more would be the Bridge over Troubled Waters here in Pasadena that takes in women that are coming out of domestic violence, which we know during times of crisis actually increase, right? Because a lot of these people are at home the whole time. We don't think about that, but that's actually a huge need during this time. Is that and just traumatic experiences like Camp Hope with military veterans, with PTSD. A lot of this the trauma comes back in times of crisis. So those are a few nonprofits that we were able to help and support and love what they're doing here in the Houston and even the East End area.
That's great. And I've got a couple of questions here that I wanted to ask you guys. So I know that COVID is here. We can't really go out and 6 feet distance, but how can people still get involved and help More Than a Move to help other nonprofits here in the area?
Yeah, I guess I'll take that, and Todd, I'll let you add anything you can come up with. I would just say if you have any connection to a nonprofit, reach out to them and ask them. You know, all these nonprofits, like Todd mentioned, I mean, for-profit businesses are hurting. Nonprofits are really hurting too, right? So obviously, if you have any extra money you can give towards causes you're passionate about, I would greatly encourage you to do that. But if on top of that too, they need support from volunteerism. So they might have a huge need that maybe you have the skill to help, right? If you are really gifted in technology, or you're really gifted in something else that's a huge need, they might need you. And so that would be one thing. And I just think you can never go wrong with kindness. These people are struggling and stressed too. A note of encouragement with you and your child, drawing them a picture. I know that sounds very elementary, but you'll be amazed at just how much that really restores hope into a life. And so it doesn't have to be this grand thing during this time. It can be, but it can also be something very, very simple. So,
Wonderful.
anything you would add?
No, I think just letting people know that they're appreciated and they're loved and the work that they do matters. I think prayer is huge, especially for a lot of the nonprofits that we support. Think about like Elijah Rising, supporting, the end of human trafficking in our city. So there's so many different major needs that while they may not be able to meet financial needs right now, there are opportunities to encourage. And I call that like spiritual capital. Like you can still pray for somebody. You can still send a note, like Jamie said, and those don't cost anything except for a little bit of our time. And so I definitely think people need encouragement these days. I mean, I love what y'all are doing on Fridays. This is great. I mean, just an opportunity to encourage and lift people up because it is a challenging time. It is difficult for so many. And, we all have to recognize that. I like to think, the new normal, right? Everybody says they want to go back to the way things were, but I really think anytime we go through something challenging like this, there's an opportunity to actually come out better on the other side. And so the real question is how can we come out better on the other end of all that we're facing today? Because it is a downtime for a lot of people. And so you have opportunities to work on things that maybe you haven't been able to work on for many years, or you've always said, I'm going to get to this, or I'm going to get to that. Well, guess what? There's no more excuses. Like we all have a little bit of more time than we probably had before. And so the opportunity is now to make those transitions. I think about Philippians chapter 4, where Paul talks about how he's learned how to abound in everything, whether he has a lot or a little. And so really, I think that's what we all have to learn to do in hard times, right? Is how can we not sit in anxiety and fear, but how can we learn to be content in all circumstances? And that's easier said than done. But sometimes you forget that even those that are in the business of helping others, like these wonderful nonprofits that we've talked about, they need encouragement too. Just because they're people that do this all the time, remember that the first thing people do a lot of times is whenever you go through a challenging time is people kind of hole up. So all of a sudden people aren't contacting them. Sometimes their donors pull back support. And so I think it's really important that we just remember that it's not just the businesses that have challenges. As Jamie said so well earlier, a lot of the nonprofits have a lot of needs and a lot of challenges too. And they serve a lot of the those who have great needs in our community.
So true. Another great question we have here is, so what has been your favorite success story with the foundation? And we'll start with you, Jamie.
I don't really know if one specific story comes to mind. I think I just love being a consistent presence where we are in our community over time. I've really, in our culture, I really appreciate that. And just hearing testimony and story after testimony, whether it be a nonprofit writing something back about how the support we gave them is going to allow them to fulfill their mission, or a volunteer coming back, maybe one specific one that comes to my mind, it makes me kind of tear up. But, the lady said that, my husband just passed away, and I was so consumed with myself and my grief that when I went and volunteered and I saw those children, it made me feel alive again, And so just little things like that. And there's a lot of stories that you get to read like that. And it's very life-giving to know that what we do day in and day out is really impacting lives. And across a huge spectrum, it could be an employee, it could be a nonprofit, it could be someone they serve. But a lot of those stories really have impacted me. And there's 10 or 15 more I could say, but really that's what sticks out the most, is just the narrative of the foundation. right? And that
Yeah.
life matters. And so that's probably something for me, Todd,
Thank you.
that might come to your mind.
Well, I was going to ask you,
Yeah,
Todd. I know
absolutely.
before you answer, Todd, you've been on a lot of mission trips. In addition to do you have a favorite mission trip or a success story through the foundation you want to share?
Both. They're all, look, I've never been on a mission trip that I have said, this was a bust, this didn't work. In fact, if I rewind the clock years ago, back to when we first started going, 2012, God just blew my socks off. I mean, everything was just overwhelming, amazing. I watched so many lives get impacted and changed. And again, you go with the idea that you're going to actually do something, but the reality is God really works on your heart in the process. And so you're the one that actually comes back with a different perspective. And so, they're all great. I remember actually thinking and actually praying. I'm sad to say this, but obviously y'all know that I'm a man of faith. And I really thought to myself, Lord, it was so good. I don't know how you're going to do this again. And so I was almost worried, like, how are you going to replicate what we experienced that first trip? But every single trip, God shows up. And at some point or another, lives are impacted, lives are changed. So a couple of quick stories. One, we had an employee that went with us. And I wasn't actually on this trip. Jamie was. But basically, they were having marital issues. We did not know that on the front end. And later, the guy said, I just basically took the free trip to where we were going. I won't name the place. And he goes, when we get back, we're gonna split. And long story short, a couple of churches into the visit, as they were visiting with the congregations and such, God just broke his heart. And the church prayed over him, healed him. His wife forgave him. He literally came back on fire. It was restored marriage in the process. So you're talking about a generational change for that family because they have children. I mean, how do you put a price tag on that? So God always does amazing things. One for me personally was I was serving, Jamie and them had set up a deal at the Ronald McDonald House here in Houston. And we were just serving a meal, a very simple thing. You just, show up. And again, you don't have to be like some kind of superhero to do all this stuff. It's just show up. We just need bodies and someone with kindness. And so we were literally just doing a serving line. And this young couple, I mean young, they were probably 18, 19. They were staying at the Ronald McDonald House because their little baby had been born with all kinds of issues, had been given a 0 chance of survival. Well, as it turns out, as I'm talking with them and praying with them, they're from Nacogdoches, and I went to school at Stephen F. Austin, so we immediately had a connection there. And so I just kind of followed that up, and we spent some time together, and I just felt attached to them because, well, number one, they were 18 and 19 dealing with a really significant issue in their life, and I can only imagine. Raising children is hard anyway, but can you imagine being born with a special needs child that has major issues, and you're only 19 years old? And so we were able to follow up with them, and later they had a huge need because their son, who actually wound up getting to go home from the hospital, they had an old vehicle from it had 400,000 miles on it, no air condition. They couldn't even drive him back and forth because he had a tube that he had to breathe through. And so the heat was really bad for him. His name was Cannon, or is Cannon. And long story short, we had a wonderful, generous donor that decided to partner with us to basically give them a car. And so they turned in their old car, which was a very nice old car, but we were able to get enough money to get them a newer, car that would provide great transportation for a young family. And so it was a direct need that God met. I mean, the fact that I'm there, that they're from Nacogdoches, you can't write this stuff up. And the fact that we have a guy that we know that the guy that gave the car has a special needs daughter. And so he identified with this young couple and then met the need. And then we were able to facilitate it. And Jamie and I got to go and spend some time with them. So I still follow up with them today. They have been able to move home. Cannon actually is a miracle baby. He came out of the hospital and they love him dearly. So that's Blake and Callie were the parents' name. And just, so how do you put a price tag on something like that? I mean, this young couple was given no hope. And, you know, here we are, we just have a quick meal, a quick prayer, and, you know, months and months now, over a year later, you know, they're back home in Nacogdoches and Cannon's doing well and they have transportation, all because, like I said, we set up a basic serving line at the Ronald McDonald House. So that's the kind of stuff that happens whenever you say yes and you just step out in faith.
Oh, it's a beautiful story, Todd. Thank you. So we were talking earlier that not everyone is in a good place right now due to COVID, due to work issues, et cetera. So, and that we all need to express empathy. So how are you two dealing with the COVID, and how are you keeping yourselves and your coworkers motivated?
Jamie?
Yeah, I'll go first. I would say a lot of it, honestly, I'm trying to encourage people just to take care of themselves, right? Exercise, get sleep, make sure that you are thinking. I think that's where volunteerism really helps. It gets our eyes off of ourselves, because that's naturally where we want to gravitate, is our issues. And it actually helps us ponder others, which is, to me, a lot more joyful to try to help other people. So I think that's a huge thing I'm trying to tell people that really help us out with the foundation, is to start there. And then from that health, then we can launch out and do some of these other things to where we can go knock on a neighbor's door or help a senior citizen, or any of those little things that also make us feel more human and aid others. So from a foundation perspective, that's not necessarily a business answer, but I think, you know, we're seeing that it's really helping people to start there and really work through the pandemic, stay connected, you know, to really stay connected with friendships, stay connected with coworkers, schedule a little coffee meeting like you're going to have cooler talk at work on Zoom, you know, as weird as that sounds. But those are a few things that I'm seeing that are helping me personally and some others in my network.
Good.
Todd, you go ahead.
Yeah, and as far as Gulf Winds goes, I mean, I'm so proud of our team as a whole. It's really been a difficult season for so many. I feel like we've done as well as we could do, considering all that's going on. And the thing that if you look at a business scenario, one of the things that we were talking about recently is, you may have heard of the word VUCA. So there's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity in the markets right now. All of those things create really difficult challenges for everyone, no matter what your business is. And so I think the biggest thing that we have focused on is communication. And thank goodness for Zoom and the ability to communicate like we are today. But I would say that our team has stepped up their communication level dramatically. Thank goodness we were already working on a work from home program about 2 years ago. So we were a little bit ahead of the curve. We don't anticipate that we're going to go back to working in the office. We think most of our people will continue to work from home. I mean, obviously we have certain people that's not possible based on the job. But we definitely see flexibility as a big advantage, especially for family time and increase in, you know, you're not paying for gas, all the things that go along with trying to go to an office space. And so I definitely think there's some benefits. I think keeping things really simple and having a really clear vision on where you want to go as an organization really matters right now. People want clarity. And if we can give them clarity and we can simplify the message in the process, then we can take some of that complexity out of it. And a lot of times it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind. I always say that what you focus on expands. And so when you're focused on the whirlwind, then everything's going different directions. But we can all do something every day. So if we just keep that really simple and put one foot in front of the other, that's really how you create opportunities for progress within your personal growth and also the organization, or even spiritual growth. It's a matter of just taking that daily step and being consistent in that. And so, you know, I think it's important to listen and be aware of the fact that, you know, everyone's at a different place. So just because you're feeling really good today doesn't mean that other person is. And so we just want to be very sensitive in this time to the needs of others as well. But at the same time, stewardship is a primary principle of running any kind of business. You have to make a profit, or you can't do anything for the community. You can't do anything for your people. You go out of business, you have no jobs. And so I think what I was telling Jamie earlier, even talking, like I said, with you guys today, I'm so torn because I know how hard it is right now to make a lot of the stewardship decisions that are necessary for organizations. And what I hope is in that process, when that's being done, is that people are upfront and they're communicating throughout the process, and that people know that they're cared for, and that we do the best job we can as it relates to that. Because the reality is, anytime you experience major market shifts like we have, more than likely you're going to have staff reductions because you're not maintaining the growth trajectory that we had in 2020. And so I know we've experienced some of that, and that's always hard because you never want to get rid of anybody. That's the worst part of leadership, to be honest with you, is to recognize that you have the value and the ability to create jobs, but there's times where things are out of your control and you have to make adjustments. Otherwise, the whole thing can go down. And so, for me personally, it's just caring deeply and trying to love people well throughout that process, be fair with whatever you're able to do in that time and that season. And then, like I said, just over the years, as I've really seen some people that I really loved and cared about come and go, some have left and come back. Others have gone to other organizations and are in a better place. And so we also have to remember that for me, as a person of faith, God's in control. He's sovereign. And there's been times where I thought, man, this is horrible. I can't believe we have to go through this. And then the person winds up in actually a better position. And so even my own company, I should know that. My dad was laid off in his early 50s, or we're not even having this conversation. And so clearly our story at Gulf Winds is one of being birthed out of a real tragedy and a difficulty, and frankly, a layoff. And so when you look at that, you realize that God has different resets in our life, and every reset is an opportunity. And so we have to trust that if we're faithful and we're doing our jobs like we need to and all of that, that God will take care of us and those around us. And so communicate often, care, keep it really, really simple, and just be aware of, where people are as you come in contact with them every day. So those are a few things that come to mind.
That's great. I love that. Communicate and care. We're all going to do that this week, and that's our homework assignment. But Todd, you mentioned it's a family business. Your dad started it. You were free labor. I know you have children. Are they interested in joining the Gulf Winds industry or join you in the future?
That's a good question. As of right now, they have not expressed that interest. I have a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old. So my son is a freshman at Baylor. My daughter will be going to Blinn in the fall. And so she really is attracted to special needs children. She's always loved working that angle. When we've gone on mission trips and things to Haiti, she's just got a gift with those that have special needs. And so that's kind of been her bent, either that or psychology and such. My son is very bright intellectually, and he is not sure what he wants to do yet. So he's still trying to figure out being a freshman at Baylor. And of course, having to come home right in the middle of that doesn't help. But we'll see. You never say no, or it can never happen. But at the same time, we don't have like this master plan where, it's put up. So wherever God leads in that, is ultimately what we'll follow. But I just want to encourage them ultimately to do what they're called to do. And I think that's different for all of us. And so I never want them to feel like, they have to be like dad or they have to do this specific thing. Although I do encourage them to be involved in ministry work because that's part of the deal.
I love it. And Jamie, you have, I think you have small children. How's your homeschooling going? How did it go, rather?
Yeah. We have, they're not in school quite yet, but we have a son that just turned 3, and we have a daughter that is about to be 11 months. So we empathize with parents going through what they're going through right now. And but at the same time, it's such a joy to get time with your children. And for me personally, with my story, that's one of my biggest ambitions in life is to be a good father. And so, that's vitally important to me. And so I'm enjoying that time and trying to raise up our children to, much like Todd said, just really, I'm personally a man of faith as well. So I really want them to love and treasure God above everything. And so that's what we're trying to do, and love our kids and enjoy this time, even though can be rather difficult and rather joyful. So
yes. And I see, Jamie, that you have your email address down below, and we'll put your information, share it with anyone that wants it. But can people email you and find out, or find your website and find out how they can volunteer and maybe donate with More Than the Move?
Yeah, feel free. Obviously, that's my email. Reach out to me. Love to connect with you, and just see, as Todd mentioned, our goal is to really get as many people engaged back into the community, as many businesses engaged back into the community as possible, whether that's with us or on your own. We want to leave a legacy of generosity. We want to leave a legacy of people really restoring hope back into the community and world. So as much as we can be a resource and help you, again, my email's there, and I would love to help you in any way I can.
Great. And then Todd, would you say that More Than the Move has met or exceeded your expectations?
Oh, yeah. I think when we started it, we just wanted to put a structure around it. But very quickly, I think we saw that the opportunity is so great. As I said, I know so many business owners, especially small to mid-sized businesses, that really want to do things, but they really struggle with having the time, the energy, or the resources to be able to do it. And so I've been really pleased with how we started, where we've come, especially facing all that we're facing this year. But I just think the opportunity to help other businesses do what we do in whatever way that looks like for them is really great. Jamie, I don't think you mentioned, but you might mention a couple of the other partners that we have that have kind of joined the team, so to speak. More Than the Move was a saying that we had at Gulf Winds, which was basically, it's about more than moving freight. And so we wanted to remind people that when you come to work every day, that you're working for something bigger than just your job, because we know that as we produce a profit, then there's opportunity to pour back into others in the community and in the world to make it, a better place. And so there's purpose in that, in what we do every day, whether you're sweeping the floor or driving a forklift or out making a sales call, whatever that looks like, doing customer service work, you name it. But I think for us, it's the joy of knowing that we believe that God's given us this idea so that we can share it with others. And so our hope is our trajectory over the next several years, and we just had a few other companies express interest in signing up with us, is that we can reproduce sort of what we're doing on a larger scale, because ultimately it's really not about Gulf Winds at the end of the day. It's about restoring hope, as Jamie said. And if we can help others do that, then we feel like we've got a bigger win than just having our own little foundation.
Great.
Yeah, and I do want to mention a few other companies like Sunburst Truck Lines, which is actually in the same industry as Gulf Winds, Core Group Resources, a staffing company out in Katy. And then there's 3 or 4 others that are potentially in the next months might roll on and serve with us as partners. So it's amazing to see, we could be up to 6 or 7 companies joining together to restore hope in the community and the world. So we're excited about the growth and just ultimately the opportunity. Each of those stories that we heard earlier, we just want to multiply that, and we want to see other companies reap the joy of engaging in that.
I think that's wonderful. And so there's no more other questions, but I know we're going into another weekend. Next week is the 4th of July, and it's a time for people where we used to go outside and do fireworks. So just for fun, how are you guys going to enjoy your 4th of July week? Well, Todd, we'll start with you.
Well, we've had a few COVID positive tests in our area, so I'm not sure that we're going to get out. Unfortunately, my daughter, one of her good friends, her younger sister, was diagnosed with it this week, positive. So we're all sticking kind of close to home, and so I imagine I'll probably cook on the grill, maybe hamburgers or something like that, and I will probably play Uno around the table, which has become a real go-to for us, spicy Uno at that, and we really love that. And so we'll probably just be here. It'll be quiet, but just thankful for family, thankful for, again, I've traveled all over the world in a lot of different places, and I always remind people that, it looks at times like our country has so many issues, but I can tell you every time I've come home, I've always been so grateful for the United States and what we represent. And it is a diversity of everything across the board, but there's no place in the world like it. I mean, you can go anywhere in the world, and there's a reason why millions of people want to come here every year. And so I hope that even this group and whoever's watching today would just really stop and think, again, what can we do to be a part of the solution instead of the problem? And so that's the approach that we take. Is look, I found that a lot of people have opinions on things, but I found that even as I look at our fundraising for our program for Gen 1, which is directly into the third ward for early childhood education and youth education, only 1% of people, less than 1% of people that saw that opportunity, even with me getting together with a great friend of mine who's an African-American pastor to put a video together, less than 1% actually gave. And we still managed to reach our goal of 50,000 total. 25 we had to raise, we matched 25. And so I see the value in just the partnering together. But I also see that if that's less than 1%, imagine if like the rest of us just chose something to get involved with, something. You have to take a step back and ask yourself, what can I be used for? And how can I be a part of the solution? Because again, I see all kinds of things on social media. Everybody's got an opinion on everything. But I would say, and I would challenge us, let's be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And if we would focus on that, you'd be amazed at how everything would just start to roll, because that's really how things really change, is when people start being a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. So that's my little sermon today on how we can move the nation forward. And I know we can. I have such a diverse group of people that I know and that are close to me, and so many great communities here in the Houston area. We're a hugely diverse city, and we have so much to be thankful for. Great ports, low cost of living, jobs are great compared to the rest of the country. We're very blessed here to have industry and to have opportunity. And we need to not get so distracted, and we need to get back focused on me personally. What can I do to be part of the solution? If we would all do that, I think, again, we would see a lot of joy return to each of us.
I agree. Beautifully said. And Jamie, how are you going to spend your fourth?
Yeah, I'll be real quick. My wife's parents just moved into town, so it's a blessing, having a younger family to have a little bit of family help. So we'll probably just cook out with them, and our kids love their Nana and Grandpa, and so we'll just hang out as family probably. And maybe if there's fireworks, we'll watch them. If not, we'll just enjoy family, like Todd said, and just thankful for to have that time.
I think that's beautiful. And I don't have human children, but I have a dog, and she just finally came up to me to say hello. So I'll be spending my time with her.
Yeah.
But I wanted to thank both of you very much for joining us today. I'm a big fan of Gulf Winds International, of the Stewart family, and I was so grateful that you, from your organization, you created a nonprofit to get all the businesses together so that they can make a contribution to the world and we can leave a legacy. So I commend you both for doing that. And I wanted to remind everybody that this will be on our website, so that if you want to let anybody else know that they can watch it, or remember, if you want a link back to Jamie's website or the Gulf Winds website, it'll be there too. We also have our East End Strong Facebook group page that we highly encourage everyone to visit. And if you have a business that you want us to support, let us know and we'll definitely do that. So any closing remarks, Todd? You always say something positive. So can you give us something to take away for us to close the show with?
Well, I would just say again, we all have to learn how to be content in all circumstances. And so this is an opportunity for us right now. We can look at the downside of things or we can look at the positive side. And we have lots to be thankful for. And so I just would encourage everyone in this time to have a heart of thanksgiving right now. I know that's hard sometimes when it's difficult, but it's amazing how when we have a heart of thanksgiving, how the anxiety and the worries just kind of drop and they fade away. And so just focus on, what we can control instead of what we can't. And I would just encourage people to trust the Lord in this time. He knows we're imperfect people. We all have struggles and challenges. None of us are perfect. But as a whole, we have an awesome place that we live in here in Houston, Texas. And I think we should see what we can do to join together again and be a part of how do we make a positive difference and impact in the community? How can we help, as Jamie says in the foundation, to restore hope in the lives of people? And we can all do our little part.
Beautifully said. So we're going to end it right there. Thank you both very, very much. We'll see everyone back here on the next Feel Good Friday. And we wish everyone a great weekend. Thank you, Todd.
Francis. God bless you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jamie. Bye-bye.